This program contains graphic violence and sexual content. Viewer discretion is advised. Fame. It can transform a small-town dreamer into a superstar. Some people make it, and others die trying, their dreams interrupted. One Midwestern girl seeks superstardom under Nashville's dazzling lights.
Being a country singer was always a dream of hers.
The sky's the limit, since country celebs are as big as Hollywood's.
Her quest of fame took her to Nashville. She may have been the next Miranda Lambert or the next Sheryl Crow.
But she definitely had what it took. She would just kind of light the stage up.
But on the road toward fame, she meets a terrible end.
When they first found her, she had a belt around her neck.
I pretty much kind of went in shock.
A horrifying murder.
Every death is a tragedy, but this kind of took it into a different realm.
A mother who'll do anything for justice.
It's like, you better hope the police find you before I do.
And the coldest of killers.
He said it's like having a cigarette. Once you've had one, you gotta have another one to have that rush. He said the same way with killing people.
He robbed all of us of seeing what she could have become.
For aspiring stars like Melissa Haferman, sometimes the pursuit of fame kills. Nashville, the place to launch a music career. And these days, a music career means far more than radio play. It means primetime TV, red carpets, Hollywood. 20-year-old Melissa Haferman is a Wisconsin native with big dreams of trying for just such an ascent in Music City.
He told her mom and dad we're going to.
Being a country singer was always a dream of hers. It was just something that she always had in the back of her mind that she wanted to do. She always wanted to go to Nashville because when you think of country singers, you think of Nashville and vice versa.
She won't settle for less than fame. Now, having traveled to record in a Nashville studio, she's working on a demo for her debut album.
She had driven down with a producer to Nashville together, had recorded this demo.
Melissa's CD was Melissa. And then on the bottom of it, it says, won't settle for less.
She knows this is just the first step in a long journey. There's much more work to do.
She had scheduled herself to meet with an attorney to take that next step. So she was smart and talented, and she knew where she had to go to further her career.
It was pretty impressive that she got the backing that she did and was able to fulfill her dream of going to Nashville and cutting a record. I have no doubt in my mind that she would have made it big.
Famous. Your name will be in lights. How are you feeling? Good?
My ear's still bothering me a little bit.
At the end of the session, she tells her producer she's not feeling well and wants to head home.
They were supposed to drive back together, but Melissa was suffering from an ear infection. She also was missing her husband. She'd only gotten married a few months earlier and didn't want to be away for any longer. So she decided to go home a couple days early.
She wants to hop a bus back to her hometown of Stevens Point, Wisconsin.
So the record producer dropped her off at the bus terminal in Nashville and waved goodbye and fully expected to see Melissa a couple days later in Stevens Point.
Melissa's mom doesn't like the idea of bus travel.
When Melissa was young, we had taken a bus to Arizona, and a gentleman tried to get me off going in Texas. So at that point, I was not real thrilled about the idea of my daughter taking a bus through big cities, and bless Melissa's heart, she was, like I said, one of the most trusting people I have ever met, and not a candidate to be traveling across the country alone on a bus.
So Melissa decides not to make her mom worry and doesn't tell her.
I actually had not talked to Melissa at all when she was down because I was in the process of moving and I didn't have a phone that weekend.
When the producer calls, Brenda is away from her desk.
When I called the studio, they said, I think she had just left 15 minutes ago. Or I'm like, oh, great. Okay, I said, did you know what they wanted? And they're like, no, don't have a clue. I had no idea she was coming home. To be honest, I really wasn't worried about when I was gonna hear from Melissa. I figured she was gonna be so busy with recording.
The ride from Nashville to Stevens Point will be over 700 miles, a slow 20 hours with several stops along the way. But Melissa quickly makes new friends.
Melissa had a pretty bubbly, carefree personality. She was very trusting. And if somebody were to talk to her, she would absolutely talk to them.
Her quest for fame brought her to Nashville. And now she's just trying to get home. But who else is on the bus? And when they see this rising star, full of vibrant potential, will they do something terrible to destroy her dreams? Melissa's journey toward fame began in a very secure place. The town of Stevens Point, Wisconsin.
Stevens Point is not a huge place, but it's a fairly thriving municipality. It's very safe. I couldn't even tell you when the last time that they had a homicide there.
Melissa had a pretty bubbly, carefree personality. She would talk to anybody. She would help anybody. If she was walking down the street and passed somebody, she would make sure to say hi to them, and she was just that type of person. One look at Melissa and she was definitely all country. It didn't get any countryer than her.
Melissa was always into horses, and I don't know where she got it from, but she was always riding. And then we ended up buying her a barrel horse for her to start competing on, and the girl was hooked. She absolutely loved rodeos.
You wouldn't normally think of Wisconsin as the rodeo state, but a lot of these small communities, especially in central Wisconsin, have a rodeo, and they can be communities of 1,000 people or less, but you'd be surprised how many people come out to the rodeo. It's a big deal.
As a teen, she's named the Kellner Rodeo Queen.
When Melissa was rodeo queen, they had given her a saddle and a belt buckle. The buckle that Melissa got is absolutely gorgeous. It's got her name on it, it has Kellner Rodeo Queen on it, and there's a crown and the date on it.
To get a rodeo belt is a really big deal, and they wear them very proudly. And sometimes to non-rodeo people, you think, why are they wearing that belt with a dinner plate size buckle on it? But this is a huge deal. It's a badge of honor.
It's her first brush with fame, and she takes a shine to it.
She wore it with a dress, she wore it with shorts, she wore her belt and buckle everywhere.
But rodeo isn't her real passion.
When Melissa was little, I believe she was 2. Melissa was singing with a hairbrush and curlers, but then she got her own little microphone that she could turn on the radio and really belt them out. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, she would be belting it out.
She emulates country's hottest stars.
Martina McBride was one that she really liked. She liked her a lot. She used to sing a lot of the Judd songs, Faith Hill songs, Dolly Parton. She sang everybody's stuff.
She tries her hand at televised karaoke competitions.
Melissa absolutely loved singing karaoke. Wherever there was karaoke, she would get her parents to take her because that was her opportunity in a small town like Stevens Point to get her voice heard. And she just enjoyed it. There was a bowling alley, and they had karaoke one night a week. Her and her parents and me and my parents would meet at the bowling alley, and Melissa would be on stage singing. But she definitely had what it took. I mean, she had no fear of being in front of a group of people. She just got on stage and she would just kind of light the stage up.
She started doing karaoke competitions, and she came in third. And the two ladies that beat her were both professional singers.
It sounded great.
I think that was the time where she's like, you know, I think I might be able to do this.
She's determined to make this her ticket to fame and starts booking better and better gigs. One of her regular gigs is singing the Star-Spangled Banner.
They had her sing the national anthem for the Kellner Rodeo all the time, and she loved it. She took a lot of pride in our country and, you know, everything about being patriot.
Eventually, she gets invited to sing the national anthem before a Milwaukee Brewers baseball game.
She sent them a tape, and they had her sing the national anthem, and it was kind of cute because the tickets we got, free tickets to go. And it was like way up on the top. After she sang the national anthem the first time, they asked her to come back and sing again. And then we had tickets like right behind the dugout. So she's like, oh, I did good.
How many people can say they got to sing the national anthem at Miller Park for the Brewers? That was a big accomplishment for her.
Country music is on the rise, and stars like Reba McEntire, Tim McGraw, and Dwight Yoakam are as recognizable as Hollywood elite. Already asked for autographs, Melissa's signature earns her a cute nickname, Melissa Love.
When she dotted her I, she would make a heart. It was Melissa with the heart, and it stood for love.
Thanks for coming out.
Growing up, when people would pronounce her last name, she would get so frustrated if they would say Haferman or just pronounce it wrong. So I can see her changing it up a little bit to make it easier on people.
Melissa's star is rising, and even those outside Stevens Point take notice.
She got a call one night from a lady that asked her if she would be interested in recording some songs that she wrote down in Nashville.
Nashville?
An invitation to record in Music City, where so many music superstars began their own careers. It's a dream beginning to come true, and she'll do anything to make it happen. But when you place yourself into fame's bright spotlight, you sometimes expose yourself to people with deadly intentions you might not have met otherwise. As Melissa chases her dreams, darkness descends and turns those dreams into a nightmare. Melissa Haferman is a Wisconsin girl with dreams of making it big. First as a music star in Nashville, and then as a celebrity everywhere.
A lot of people have dreams and they don't pursue them, or they don't have the drive to get to where they need to be for their dreams. And there was no holding Melissa back. That's what she wanted to do, and one way or another, she was gonna do it.
Her hometown of Stevens Point, Wisconsin, just isn't the place to launch her career.
She did what she could singing around here, but she, you know, you could only do so much. It's a smaller town, and it's just, you know, in the center of Wisconsin. It's not in the heart of anything, but her big goal was to be in Nashville and singing.
After a producer discovers her doing karaoke, she asks Melissa to come to Nashville to discuss possibly working together.
We were ecstatic, especially coming into Nashville, and it's the big buildings and everything, and we're like, oh my God, we're like really here.
Hi, Melissa. Hi. How are you?
They meet with the producer, who thinks Melissa has what it takes, and assures her this is the place to really go after her dream.
Her quest of fame took her to Nashville. A lot of people go to Nashville just simply because it's a built-in music industry. You've got recording producers, you've got backup bands, you've got the people that can help you move on to the next step in your career are all based in Nashville.
This was the first time in a big studio. And she just kind of looked around, and I think it finally hit her that I'm really in Nashville.
After the meeting, they hit the town.
She sang all over Nashville, down the streets, walking around. People are like shaking her hand and asking who she was, and she's like, Melissa? And we're like, Melissa, if they think you're, you are somebody, you're a big singer or whatever. She goes, oh, really? It was so hilarious, but she got more motivated after that.
By August 1999, Melissa and the producer have finalized their deal and plan to record a demo.
We had already been in Nashville several times and talking to different people, and then this lady was doing some financial backing, helping Melissa, with the CD and recording her songs.
But this time, Brenda can't go.
I had just gotten promoted at my job, and I was moving at the same time. And I did not want Melissa to go, but Melissa wanted to, get the songs done and everything, the CD and all that.
I wish you could go with me. Something for you. Mom, it's beautiful.
Sweetheart, I love you too. Going to Nashville.
So I didn't really worry too much about it because I figured she's with them, she's at the recording studio, everything should be fine.
We're gonna go to the movies next.
Melissa has left the safety of small-town Wisconsin, but it's so worth it. She works on her debut album at the same studio where music greats like Taylor Swift, Miranda Lambert, and Blake Shelton have recorded hit records.
She just had a unique quality about her that kind of made her stand out. Her producer said that she had a really good voice, not just for country, but also for pop music as well, too. This CD might have been the first of many for her. She may have been the next Miranda Lambert or the next Sheryl Crow.
It's blue.
But after a few days of recording, she's not feeling well. And despite her mother's fears about bus travel, she hops one to go home. Her producer stays behind to finish mixing the tracks.
The record producer dropped her off at the bus terminal in Nashville and waved goodbye.
The plan was she was staying with them, going to be doing recording. When they were all done with the legal end of it and the CD was where they thought it was, they wanted it, she was riding back to Wisconsin with them. That was what I had agreed to. I did not know anything about them putting her on a bus to come back.
Also unaware that Melissa's on her own traveling north, her new husband.
It was a whirlwind romance. They met, and it was one of those things, love at first sight, and couldn't separate them.
I could see it all over her face that she saw him, and I'm like, oh my God, there's nobody else that she is going to be interested in if she meets this young man. And they were married probably maybe 6 months later.
And their love had inspired Melissa's title track, Won't Settle for Less.
Her and Thomas got married. It was at the courthouse, but she wanted to have a wedding reception and get remarried for family and friends. And that was the song she was going to sing to Thomas at the wedding. So that was her first song on the CD.
He thinks she'll be returning home to him in a few days.
But sadly, Melissa never made it home to Wisconsin.
After traveling 175 miles north from Nashville, where her fame was finding its roots, she gets off the bus alone at a stop in Louisville, Kentucky, and never gets back on. The next day, the bus arrives in Stevens Point. With her husband and mom unaware of the travel, no one realizes Melissa isn't there to claim her luggage.
The year this happened, there was no text messaging. Few people had cell phones back then. I mean, nowadays, you would just text something, oh, just got on the bus, I'm supposed to arrive at a certain time, or, but this is back when we were still using payphones. So it was very easy for something like this to happen.
Melissa has vanished, and no one knows it, besides Melissa and whoever took her. Then, 2 days later, in a vacant field 5 blocks from the bus station in Louisville, a man makes a gruesome discovery.
A citizen that took a shortcut from one street to another and went through a vacant lot, which is about 5 blocks away from the bus station. Happened upon a partially nude body of a female. When they first found her laying there, the only thing she had on was a bra, and she had a belt around her neck. The belt had a large rodeo belt buckle.
Small-town girl Melissa Haferman dreams of being a celebrity in the music biz. Her dream takes her to Nashville, separating her from her safety net of loved ones and exposing her to danger. After recording a demo CD in a hot studio there, she gets on a bus to take her home, but vanishes. Now, a body has been found in Louisville, Kentucky, one of the stops on Melissa's bus route. Louisville police respond.
Some of her clothes was laying scattered beside the body. Her purse was found a few yards away with her ID and other items in it.
The ID confirms it's Melissa Haferman. Louisville detectives contact their counterparts in Wisconsin, who have to inform the family.
I was home thinking, okay, Melissa should be coming home, in a day or two. All of a sudden, I hear a knock at the door, and there's these 2 men standing there. They were both plainclothes. And I looked at him, I'm thinking, uh-oh. And he said, you have a daughter named Melissa? And I'm like, what's going on? He says, can we come in? I had this, it's actually her graduation picture, up on the wall, and the guy looked over at the picture, and he didn't even have to say anything. It was like, oh my God. I was not prepared for them to say, we got a call from Louisville, and they found a young lady that had your daughter's driver's license. And I'm like, she's not in Louisville. She's in Nashville. I mean, I was totally confused. And that's when I found out that they had put her on a bus. I pretty much kind of went in shock.
The horrible news rips through Melissa's hometown.
Stevens Point was devastated. They lost one of their own. And not only did they lose one of their own, but it was in such a tragic, heart-wrenching manner.
I was in shock because you don't think of something like that happening to anybody that you know. The fact that a local girl actually made it down to Nashville to cut a record and then she never made it home. It was just like something that you would hear about in a big city, not in Stevens Point.
I didn't even have a chance to even start to cry because I knew, okay, well, if this happened to her, we need to find out why and who.
Detectives do their best to decipher what happened.
Looking at the scene with her clothes off, that would have gave some assumption that a sexual assault had occurred. Belt on her neck, that would give a sign that I mean, she wasn't shot, she wasn't stabbed.
The killer seems brazen.
The purse was there, her clothes was there, things tore off her in his throat, nothing taken away, hidden in the dumpster or anything like that. It kind of leads you to believe maybe just don't care. Louisville PD never did recover DNA, hair, fibers, anything like that, foreign from Melissa. Nothing like that was found on the scene.
And that may seem weird and strange for us to say nowadays when we are so used to seeing police procedurals on TV where they're collecting paint chips or something like that. But every now and then, that just happens.
The lack of identifying evidence could mean several things.
You can have somebody who is just a killer who's just incredibly lucky, that they don't know what they're doing, but they just don't happen to leave anything behind. Or you can have the other end of the spectrum where you've got a serial killer who is so sharp and so smart that they know exactly what they're doing and they know not to leave anything behind.
An autopsy shows Melissa was killed 24 to 36 hours before being discovered, which matches the time the bus stopped at the nearby station. And despite the rodeo belt around her neck, the cause of death is ruled manual asphyxiation.
She'd been strangled with somebody using their hands, but then probably her killer used the belt and with the belt buckle to finish off, to make sure that she was dead.
The cruel use of the belt is especially poignant.
Melissa was very proud of being rodeo queen. So she was very, very proud to still wear the buckle afterwards.
Another strange detail, an ice cream wrapper shoved down her throat.
My take on that is that whoever had strangled her got desperate that she wasn't all the way expired at the time. Sticking wrapper down her throat, using a belt to finish the job.
Detectives keep the detail of the wrapper confidential.
That was only knowledge that they had and the killer had. You know, only the killer would be able to tell exactly that part of information. Because nobody else knew that but the police department.
Investigators begin retracing Melissa's last known steps. Her passion for singing brought her to Nashville, but she eventually had to go home.
When she gets on the bus in Nashville, she travels up to Louisville. She's only supposed to have a short layover in Louisville.
It was approximately 10:30 or so. Bus driver told them that they were going to stop for about an hour to get fuel, and they were going to get back on the bus at that point and go to Chicago.
Melissa never got back on. Her rise to fame cruelly stopped just as it was beginning.
What made her leave the bus station where it was well lit and there would have been a lot of people because it's in downtown Louisville, to leave that bus station with a stranger and to go someplace?
Who was that stranger? Someone on the bus or someone from the terminal?
Melissa was a very outgoing, trusting person. I'm not surprised that you may have talked to this guy.
Hey. Hi.
Because as we know, sometimes murderers do have a lot of charisma.
Police ask for a complete list of passengers.
The problem that Louisville Police Department ran into was the fact that back then, 1999, there was no passenger manifest. You'd walk up to the window and say, I need a ticket from Nashville to Louisville. They sold you a ticket. They didn't ask you for ID. They didn't write your name down. If there was a seat available, you got a ticket. So there's no place to start. There's no list.
They canvass near the crime scene, hoping someone will talk.
They started going and asking questions, asking, have you heard anybody talking about killing a young lady over by the bus station? And they were getting nothing. Nobody knew anything.
The investigation slows to a crawl.
We went down to Nashville to meet with the police because there was a lot of questions.
The family also tries to keep the case alive in Nashville by posting about a reward.
Actually, a $20,000 reward that a family member on my stepdad's side had put up.
As difficult as it is, Brenda wants to see where her daughter breathed her last breaths.
We went to where it happened at, and I'm looking at the crime scene and I'm thinking, my God, if there was somebody that was gonna kill somebody, it was a perfect spot. There was shrubs that were along the street, or the sidewalk, that were taller than me, and it totally blocked out this area.
To Melissa's devastated family, everyone is a suspect.
In all honesty, I looked at every single male thinking, you could have been the one. No matter where I went, I didn't trust anybody.
Somehow, the killer has vanished. Detectives need a break, fast.
In your mind, like they say, the first 48 hours are the most critical, and they are. If that person is still here, I've got to find them. You've got a small window, and that was running out on them pretty quick.
Can you tell us a little bit about your daughter?
Yes, my daughter Melissa was murdered, and we are asking people.
Hoping to draw the killer out, Brenda taunts him on the local news.
I had done a news interview. I had said, I'm here. Basically trying to irritate him or make him mad to come after me, because I figured, hey, you got my daughter, why don't you try the mom too?
We are asking people to please give us any information that they can that'll lead us to the person.
And I was very cold. I didn't care, because it's like, you better hope the police find you before I do.
Melissa Haferman begins working her way to fame as a country singer, recording her demo CD in Nashville. But on her way home to Wisconsin, she steps off a bus in Louisville, Kentucky, and never gets back on. Her dreams destroyed by a sadistic killer. When police find her body, no clues point to who that killer was.
There was a point that you just kind of sit back and think, are they gonna ever find the guy that did this, or did he get out free and clear? He could have gotten on the bus and been in 3 different states by the time, that her body was discovered. There was definitely thoughts going through my head that maybe they won't ever find him.
Investigators appeal to the public for help, announcing a $20,000 reward offered by the family.
You put it out in the media, hey, we're looking for information involving this homicide. You usually have some people call. It's going to say, hey, I know this, I heard this, whatever. But they were getting nothing.
Melissa's mom even tries to lure the murderer out of hiding by taunting him on TV. But he doesn't rise to the bait.
If whoever done it lives there, they're gonna say something to somebody. Somebody's gonna overhear something, and you're gonna at least get something. But they weren't getting anything.
More than a year after Melissa's slaying, Louisville police get their first real lead when a distressed young woman reports an assault.
There was a guy who was pretending to be a police officer. He was pulling young ladies over and sexually assaulting them.
Detectives review case files and discover similar assaults. In each case, the assailant was a man dressed as a police officer. And many of the assaults occurred in downtown Louisville, not far from the bus station.
They were able to get him through an undercover operation where they actually caught him in the act of pulling a young lady over.
The man's name is Byron Barrows. He's a security guard for several area businesses, including the bus station that was Melissa's final stop.
Further investigation revealed that he had actually been working the night, August 18th, 1999, the night of Melissa Haferman's murder. So he automatically becomes suspect.
Here he was impersonating a cop and pulling women over and then raping them. And they thought maybe he was the guy who had done this.
A man dressed in a uniform would have posed no threat to Melissa.
The person that did this, maybe she had trusted him, felt safe enough with him, that she could walk down the street.
But when they grill him about Melissa's homicide, he refuses to talk.
They had the fact that he was committing sexual assaults, and they had the fact that he was at the bus station. Other than that, they had nothing to tie him to the murder. They had nothing to even prove that he even saw her.
Without further evidence, they can't charge him with Melissa's murder.
The police department always probably kept him in the back of their mind as being the one who done it, even though they couldn't charge him, because it was their only tangible suspect that they had. They didn't have nobody else.
No direct evidence against Barrows, no other suspects, no new leads. Everyone starts to believe the killer is not a Louisville local.
Nothing, absolutely nothing. So I knew it had to be somebody that she had talked to prior to hitting Louisville.
Years slip by heartbreakingly, and the case turns ice cold.
4.5 years I went through, and my 2 boys trying to grow up at the same time, plus trying to deal with, my emotions, not knowing.
The not knowing is the worst thing ever. And it wasn't even like the not knowing of what happened, because they obviously knew what had happened to her. They just didn't know who had done it to her.
Then, 300 miles southeast in Johnson City, Tennessee, detectives receive a surprising call that at first seems unrelated.
It was about 10 in the morning. My lieutenant had walked in and said, "We've got a body in a basement." And we thought he was kidding us. He said, "No, we seriously have a body in a basement."
Investigators respond to the home and interview the woman who found the body in her basement.
And she claimed that she was taking Christmas decorations to her basement, and she saw something there and discovered a woman.
The body is wrapped in plastic and a blanket. The victim is nude, her hands and feet duct taped. Marks around her neck suggest she was strangled. At first, there's no obvious connection to the Melissa Haferman murder. But the evil that investigators are about to uncover will finally reveal answers to the terrible slaying of a rising star. As part of her plan to reach fame as a singer, Melissa Haferman makes it to Nashville, but she doesn't make it back home to Wisconsin. She's killed during a scheduled bus rest stop in Louisville, Kentucky. And the homicide case goes cold for over 4 years. Then, 300 miles away, in Johnson City, Tennessee, a woman makes a shocking discovery. A body in her basement, wrapped in plastic and a blanket. Police try to identify the victim, who has been strangled to death.
We looked everywhere in there for everything. One of the detectives opened the freezer, and there was a purse down in it. And there was an ID in there with her picture on it, and with her name.
She's 24-year-old Patricia Williams. The blanket she's wrapped in came from the bedroom of the homeowner's son, 22-year-old Glenn Isaac Goings.
Her car was gone, her son was gone. Seeing the stuff removed from his room, we pretty much assumed that he was somehow involved.
If he's a brazen killer who would strangle a young woman and dump her body in his mother's basement, investigators have to find him fast. They send notices nationwide, asking police to be on the lookout for Goings and his mother's missing car. Detectives realize they've met Goings before.
Johnson City Police Department had dealt with him prior as a juvenile. I guess his most notorious actions as a juvenile was when he attacked the juvenile guard with a fire extinguisher, stole the guard's vehicle, and drove to Florida. So he was no stranger to violence.
2 days later, and 200 miles to the southwest in Chattanooga, the effort pays off when an officer notes a suspicious vehicle.
About 3 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call that Hamilton County Sheriff's Department found the car. Isaac was actually sleeping in the front seat when they found him. I began to talk to him about, I said, we found a body in your mom's basement. How'd I get there? He said, I don't know. I said, well, I arrested your mom. And at that point, it just totally changed him. He said, I did it, I killed her. That was his words, I did it, I killed her.
Then, Goings reveals his true evil nature.
And he said, it's like having a cigarette. Once you've had one, you gotta have another one to have that rush. He said, it's like a rush. You want to feel it again. He said, the same way with killing people. He told me he killed women in Miami, Tampa, Clearwater, 3 or 4 down there, and mentioned he had killed one in Louisville.
Johnson City Police reach out to Louisville homicide detectives and realize he's talking about Melissa Haferman. Goings admits what happened.
So we decided, he never said why, to get on the bus to Louisville. And by his admission, when he got on the bus to go to Louisville, he wanted to kill somebody.
He likely saw and heard the talented singer on the bus.
That would totally be Melissa, to be sitting there just kind of humming along with songs, and she would strike up conversation with anybody.
Perhaps, to his twisted mind, a rising young music star was the perfect victim. If he killed her just as she was ascending toward fame, the murder might get more press and bring Goings the sick notoriety he craves.
He was planning on murdering somebody to make a name for himself, being a serial killer. Melissa was going to give him that opportunity. An up-and-coming person who has been in Nashville. Obviously, the newspapers have done stories on her. They are going to remember her because she does stand out.
When he saw Melissa, he got off the bus at Louisville, he walked up to her and he knew at that point he was going to kill her if he could.
Like many serial killers, Goings knew how to appear normal, trustworthy.
If he walked up and got her into conversation, she would start walking and talking and...
I want to get something, but I'm sure they don't have anything healthy. Road food, what can you do? So, I'm kind of sore from that ride. You want to walk while we talk?
Then, next thing you know, oh my goodness, we're away from everybody. Should probably turn around and go back.
Melissa had the way about her that we all wish we could have, that we could see the good in everybody. But she was that way to the wrong person. He said, I was afraid she was going to come back alive. So I found a wrapper and stuck it down her throat. That's information we have not released to anybody. So that's our guy. Glenn was never remorseful. He never made one comment at any point that he was sorry about what he'd done.
Glenn Isaac Goins is indicted on charges including rape and first-degree murder for the attacks on Patricia Williams and Melissa Haferman.
I think Glenn Isaac Goins knew he was going to prison or death penalty.
So Goins takes the coward's way out, hanging himself in his jail cell.
I had real mixed emotions. Oh, good, he's gone. You know, don't have to ever worry about him again. I was relieved, but yet I wasn't, because I wanted her day in court. I had planned on, she had recorded Martina McBride's Independence Day. I had it on tape, and I was gonna play it in court. So she got her last word, and he wasn't gonna get to take anything more away. That she was gonna get the last word on him. It's like, let the guilty pay. He was a monster. I don't know what made him that way. I don't care what made him that way. All I know is that he took a very beautiful person away from a lot of people who loved her.
While Melissa's friends and family remain haunted by the loss, they find some comfort in her music.
She's got this CD out there and they can listen to her music. So in that respect, it's a little satisfying to not just focus on the murder, but focus on the person.
In a way, her music has gotten out there. It's just a sad way about it. I listen to her CD quite often, and my kids know when it's playing, okay, quiet, Melissa's on. So I try to honor her that way.
Glenn Goins, he not only robbed her of her life, but he robbed her of her future, and a future that may have included singing at the Grand Ole Opry or multi-platinum records.
He robbed all of us of seeing what she could have become.
I look at a lot of these stars and singers and stuff, and I see so much of Melissa in some of them, like Taylor Swift. She's quite an inspiration. She's quite a young lady. I could see Melissa doing some of the things that she's done. But it's a shame because nobody will get to know.
We have our parade. We have Melissa Haferman, who will be singing the national anthem.
Melissa wanted to be famous. She wanted to be known for her singing. Sadly, her name did make it into the newspapers and into the news, but for just such a tragic reason. It wasn't because of her talent, it was because of how she was killed. And that's the ultimate tragedy.
A round of applause for our singer this morning, Melissa Haferman, with a great voice.